All right, everyone, we've got to talk about the Afghanistan problem right now, because there's a suggestion in the air from some lawmakers that we should add more troops to Afghanistan, and Trump still hasn't weighed in on whether he's going to do that or whether he's going to rebuff the idea and say, no, we don't need to be dicking around in Afghanistan anymore. My thoughts are quite simple. I don't support sending any additional troops to Afghanistan. We've been there for more than a decade, in fact, more than a decade and a half. Afghanistan isn't really any better off now than it was before. It's still war-torn, still like opium everywhere, and the Taliban and all these other problems. What exactly have we improved there? The goal, supposedly, in going into Afghanistan in the first place is, oh, we got to get rid of Osama bin Laden. Well, supposedly, Obama killed Osama, although I personally choose to believe that Osama bin Laden died years and years before that. Benazir Bhutto, a perfectly legitimate mainstream political figure within the world, Prime Minister of Pakistan at the time, openly stated, oh yeah, to my knowledge, he fucking died of kidney failure years ago. That was in the mid-2000s. That was long before the Obama era even began. I think that that was true, that she had specifically intelligence that that had happened and was assassinated for revealing that fact so she wouldn't speak out more. And that we chose to continue our involvement there for some of the cronyistic sort of corporate endeavors of the world, or maybe as part of a larger grand chessboard strategy involving the remnants of the KGB, sort of Russia in general. Oh, well, we need to surround them. We can't allow the Russians to march into Afghanistan potentially and turn it into an Iran-esque vassal or something. Okay, well, that may be commendable from the perspective of maybe the Western NATO sort of thing, but we don't appear to have accomplished the mission, and that's really, I think, the problem. Why would sending additional troops there do anything? We had a shit ton more troops there for years and years than we have now. Supposedly, the lack of troops is what's causing a problem, but we had more troops in the country before, and there were still just as many problems. In fact, there were arguably more problems. We're getting shot at more because there's more targets to shoot at. And all of these same nationalistic forces, which they are, like the Taliban, isn't just like, oh yeah, hardline religious law. It's also a nationalistic style of faction spawned from the Mujahideen that we ourselves arm. Now, here's the problem. The Soviets fundamentally tried to do the same thing that we've been trying to do in Afghanistan. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, they got involved in Afghanistan, muscling their way in. Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan decided it was a good idea during their respective administrations, end of the Carter era, beginning of Reagan era. They started giving all sorts of weapons to the Mujahideen, to what amounts to a terrorist group, essentially, in their tactics, at least as far as the Russians were concerned. And they actually did really, really well. They were beating the shit out of the Soviet military. The Soviets lost an enormous number of machines and men attempting to clamp down on this rugged, low-tech, mountainous nation where people can hide very easily through guerrilla warfare. It didn't work. They had to withdraw. They're like, well, fuck this shit. We're not getting anything out of it. We've lost, essentially. It was the Soviet Union's Vietnam and predicated its fall, actually. Now we're trying to do the same thing. How are we going to get a different result? Yes, we have better technology than like the Soviet Union did in the 1980s. It doesn't appear to be making it any easier. The tactics have remained largely the same. The problem is we've got all sorts of U.S. surplus weaponry from the last generation that we already pumped into the region, to the point at which you can go out and if you don't get shot or enslaved or something, if you successfully contact these groups, you can buy like crates of hand grenades, you can buy anti-air missiles, you can buy a tank if you want to in Afghanistan, dirt cheap. And they still supply these weapons even to groups outside of Afghanistan. Now, I see an eerie resemblance between our government's arming of the FSA in Syria and what we had already done in the 1980s with the Mujahideen anyway. Oh, these are the good guys. They're fighting against, the Russian pawn, and before it was, oh, they're fighting against the Soviet Union. They're freedom fighters. Yes, okay, we've heard that line many times before. It never served us well. It's just a political proxy war. The conflict drags on, usually to a stalemate. We lose a bunch of money. They lose a bunch of lives. We sour relations with whoever wins or whoever loses. We don't gain any allies. We don't gain any permanent leverage in these countries. To the point at which Iraq almost looks like a success compared to Afghanistan. We've been there for less time. It's more stable. Now, of course, we fuck around there and it leads to ISIS getting involved. It's like in Iraq. We first get involved and we're told we got to get rid of Saddam. He's evil. He's got WMDs. We find there's no WMDs. We kill off Saddam and we're still there. Then we say we've got to restore order. We've got to create a functioning, we got a nation build. And we do that and we still don't leave. Then it's, oh, we've got to keep, you know, buffing things up here just for a little while longer. Don't worry, we'll draw down some of the troops. Then we finally get around to leaving, and because of our own inept policies under Obama in Syria, what happens? ISIS, which has already begun to proliferate, pours into Iraq, and we have to go right back in. Now we've got more troops there than we did, you know, a year ago. We've got more troops there since the drawdown under Obama. Two fucking retarded administrations making a series of tactical blunders because apparently they wouldn't listen to their generals. They wouldn't listen to foreign intelligence. They wouldn't listen to anyone. They just wanted to line the pockets of the multinational banks. In Bush's case, it was more corporate entities unrelated to banking. Under Obama, it was multinational banks. They wanted their cut once the corporations had sucked their fill like leeches, like parasites. So they go in and they grab up all that wonderful money. Well, that's really, really great for the multinational banks and corporations. But it's not really great for our troops. It's not great for the native populations of these nations. You know, if you're going to have a policy whereby you say the Western people have a right to have our civilization to be isolated from the Islamofascism stuff, we can at the same time invade their countries, dick around in their countries, tell them what to do. It's impossible. You have to have a more isolationist foreign policy. There are exceptions to this rule. But as a general rule, you don't go dicking around in the third world. It's not productive. The average person saw no benefit from the massive amount of money that Dick Cheney's allies at Halliburton were making off the Iraq War. The average person has seen no benefit from us, you know, walking around in poppy fields in Afghanistan. The Afghanis aren't better off. What the fuck did we accomplish? Nothing. We supposedly killed Osama bin Laden after searching for him for a fucking decade. Supposedly. I saw no evidence of it. John McCain swears up and down he got to see pictures. He got to beat off to pictures of the dead Osama with a bullet through his brain. Do I believe John McCain when he says this? No, I don't. I've been offered zero evidence by the U.S. government that that even happened. And I'm not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, but I believe the brave men in SEAL Team 6. What if they were blackmailed? Oh, tell this story to the press. If you don't, you know, your family might get hurt. Something. Yeah, of course they're going to tell the story to the fucking press. That's how governments operate when they want to cover something up. This isn't tinfoil hat stuff. Look at the Gulf of Tonkin. It happens all the time. Oh yeah, oh these butcherous people, these Huns, they're so rapacious. You know, we've got to get involved with these rapacious Huns over in, you know, Prussia or whatever. It happens over and over and over again. It's called propaganda. Governments do it all the time. The Russians do it. Soviet Union used to. China does it. We do it. Everybody fucking does it. Of course we use propaganda. So I hope that Trump takes a hands-off approach. Now, I don't want to go back into Afghanistan, put a bunch of, you know, what is it, 10,000 extra troops in Afghanistan. What's it going to accomplish? It's not enough to lock down the whole country. And it's enough to piss off people that are actually trying to restore like local tribal order. We're not making any allies by being there. We should withdraw the last of our troops from the country. We should leave them alone. The same's true of Iraq. We shouldn't be involved there. We shouldn't be involved in Syria. We don't need to be involved here. ISIS never would have proliferated. You know, the excuse for wanting to go into all these countries, ISIS this, ISIS that. Yeah, ISIS was spawned largely by our inept policies to begin with. It didn't work. At what point do we say, okay, we've spent trillions of dollars and we've expended thousands of our soldiers' lives, hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed, we've accomplished none of our mission objectives other than we killed Saddam, okay, that's something we did, you know, which was probably a bad thing to do, by the way, bad as he himself may have been. We supposedly killed Osama. What else did we accomplish? Nothing. We accomplished absolutely nothing. So no, I oppose the idea of going back into Afghanistan with more troops. I think Trump should lean towards the Bannon side on this instead of the Kushner side, maybe, and say no. He should say no to the idea because it's a bad idea. And he'll be remembered as having made a bad decision on that bad idea if we get further involved in Afghanistan. It will not accomplish anything. Have we not learned our lesson yet? For years and years, the people said no more war, no more war. And then all of a sudden Obama gets elected and they stop saying that. And so now you've got the Republicans back in charge again, and the left is finally, in a belated sense, they're like, oh yeah, we're uncomfortable with all the drone strikes and stuff. Well, you didn't fucking care when Obama was doing them. So don't give me any hypocritical crocodile tears about how much you care about the fucking children. You didn't care as long as it was a Democrat blowing their limbs off. But this is the time where can't the actual right, the actual conservatives realize this costs a lot of money? Okay, divorce it from all moral connotations. Say what you want about, oh, those damn Muslims or whatever you say. Who fucking cares? It's costing you a lot of money. Doesn't that piss you off? You think with your wallet all the time? As for the left, I know you're not actually anti-war because you loved it when Obama was conducting all these limitless drone attacks and killing tens of thousands of civilians every year. But the Republicans are back in charge, so go back to being anti-war again and at least pretend to be moral. Pretend to care about the little kids that get maimed and, you know, pregnant women getting, you know, blown up and stuff. At least pretend for a few years so we can stop our government from going into another godforsaken country and stop it from going back into a godforsaken country named Afghanistan, the graveyard of nations. Nobody accomplishes jack shit there. It will never develop a first world culture. It will never develop. It's doomed. It's a landlocked, largely mountainous, steppe-ridden hellhole. Get out of the country. Let them do what they want. I don't care. You talk about oppressed women. Worry about the Saudi Arabians. At least there's development there. There's a, you know, a significant educational system there. There are exports and imports. It's part of the world economy. Lean on them to take care of their women's rights problem. Lean on them. You're not going to be able to solve shit with Afghanistan. Nobody ever has. In thousands of years, nobody has ever solved the problems inherent in this region of the world. It is cursed. We shouldn't be involved in that region. Let them do what they want. Who fucking cares? That's about all. Peace out.